about the crazy motorcycle story?
So,
Nick told me you got
so the motorcycles were always a thing. Like I said, the backflips, racing BMX, going fast has always been a thing, an adrenaline thing, right? So, basically, I go in through my whole phase of like, in and out of a marriage real quickly, and that was kind of a drunk.
hold on, marriage.
That was kind of a
How old
drunk
were you
blur.
how old were you when you got married?
Okay, I was 24, 25.
Oh shit.
Yeah, young. But I was just at that point. I think I was just, like I said, trying to undo a lot of that bullshit that I did and trying to get my path going. I was tattooing already. I started that again back in 2000, officially like 2007. And so, I was just trying to get everything together, and trying to undo my fucked up past by like just getting married and doing the kids and the family thing and everything. But I think mentally I still wasn't ready for that. And so I was still in and out of the bars, whatever. And then once that divorce happened, I was like fuck it. You know what I mean? I just was like, I don't really like have anyone again to answer to. You know what I mean? So I just kind of went off the deep end, I guess you'd say, bro. Went to the bars almost every night instead of wanting to go home. You know what I mean? And shit like that. And then the crazy motorcycle story is that was one of those nights. I'm tattooing, and two of my homegirls came through, and we probably had like maybe a 6 or a 12 pack of some beers. Like that was no big deal. And in any tattoo shop, it's really not. I mean, they'll offer you a beer at a barber shop, They'll offer you a beer here and there, anywhere if they know you're over 21, because you have to be to get into the business.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we were drinking. It was like I didn't even feel that buzzed, but I thought it was cool of me if I just met the homies over at the bar after work. So I was the last one there. Had to close down the shop and lagged a little bit. And ended up going over to the bar, and I was already kind of buzzed, and I didn't notice it till I started riding over there. It wasn't too far, it's a couple miles up the road. Simi's a small town, but it's packed with cops. I'm like, oh, you know what? I better leave this here at the shop. And I'm just gonna go meet my homies over there. So we go over there, and of course, just by chance, I had just missed them by a few minutes. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to stay, have a couple drinks, and bounce. Well, so I go in there, and, I'm a regular again, like you say, at these bars, the ones that haven't kicked me out for life yet, which this one had, but had already let me back in, because my suspension period had ended.
The grace period.
Yeah. They thought I was doing good again, right? So I go in there, and I have my fucking 2 real strong Long Island iced teas, and my homies had all left one of our friends there, and she was an employee of the bar, so I'm sure, she was just kind of lingering there and basically was getting stranded, per se, and she asked me for a ride home on my motorcycle, and I had just showed up there after work, just there by myself. I don't have an extra gear, or extra helmet or nothing, so I'm telling her, nah, this is a bad idea, nah, you know what I mean? Like, just get an Uber. Like, my homie's at the crib right now. The guy she's trying to get with. And I'm like, just come to the pad. Like, there's like 20 people over there. Just, we're all going. That's where I'm going right now. I'm just going to go get some beer and be right back. So I go to the 7-Eleven a few doors down. I get an 18 pack of beer that I plan on setting on my lap and then just jamming my Harley home like I did all the time. That was some shit I did like on the regular. And so I'm like, planning this out, and I'm like, all right, I'm about to bounce, and then I guess those drinks hit me, bro, because I just went from like telling her, no, you can't get on my bike, it's not safe, to like, you know what, fuck it, now I'm this outlaw motherfucker who don't care. So I take my helmet, and I'm like, you gotta wear this, and security's telling me no, and I'm like, man, fuck you, I'm cool. And he's like, no, you can't get on the bike. It's not right. Like, blah, blah, blah. Everyone around's telling her, grabbing her, telling her, don't get on the bike. And I'm like in this like tattoo rock star mentality. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like now I've had 2 drinks in me. And now after drinking a bunch of beers, I'm like, three sheets to the wind, you know, and I'm like, oh, I'm only a few miles up the road. Like, I get home on my bike, no problem. Bar's closing down. So it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, and in Simi it gets super dewy and wet out there in the middle of the night. You know, it's just right over the hill from the ocean. So, sure as shit, fucking, she gets on my bike, and I'm up with the 18 pack on my rack, and I go to pull out out the driveway, and there's just a fucking CHP dude sitting right across the street with his lights on the yellow. And he was just waiting. I knew it was, and I was like, fuck. I was like, here we go. So I kind of try to take off like normal, but I'm sure he's seen right away that there was no lid on me, you know. Plus I'm leaving the bar with the chick on the back of my bike at 2 something in the morning. You know what I mean? It was just right away he lit me up. Boom. So something goes off inside me where I was like, fuck that. And she just kind of gripped me like oh shit. And I just hit the gas, bro. And I was dipping. And you know, I'm like
with
I
the
said,
18 pack in your lap?
with the 18 pack in my lap, and she's just holding on like fucking all drunk, like swaying and shit.
Oh shit,
bro. So, and I look back in the rear view, and now the cops have turned their lights off. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay, well that's chilling. So I'm like slowing down, but I'm coming up to where the stop is, and I'm not used to having this amount of like weight and sway on the back of my bike, you know? So as I'm coming up to this turn, you know, and I'm buzzed enough to make these stupid decisions, I definitely shouldn't be riding. I come up to make this turn, and the bike just pitched its way sideways. And I'm being a dirt bike rider, I thought I had it, so I just kind of keep giving it gas and shit. And I'm telling you, I went into this turn probably like 70 miles an hour, bro.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I'd lock it up and kind of try to drift into it, and it wasn't happening. Yeah, it wasn't happening. Not with no passenger, and I'm trying to control the beer and all this. So, sure shit, we go down, bro, and low side the bike. Thank God she had her helmet on, that helmet on. I landed somehow and didn't even have a scratch on my face. But I woke up basically to like the headlight of my bike staring me in the face, and I had the cops like boot on my like shoulder and neck telling me to stop resisting, and fucking about 18 beers spread across the fucking whole entire highway. So I mean, it's a pretty obvious scenario what's going on here. Like, you know what I mean? So once that happened, man, they do the field sobriety. They're wrapping my ass right to jail, and they put her in an ambulance. And then they asked me, where's your helmet? And I'm like, man, I got pissed off and I threw it way up on the mountain up there, way over that hill. Thought they were going to believe that story. Nah. So I was giving them shit the whole time, man, and you know, I'm drunk and belligerent, and I'm telling the cops, I ain't resisting shit, like, get your boot off of me. But to them, that's me fighting, and I'm sure I was probably a little bit more out of control than I should have been, you know? So finally, they wrap me up and get me in the whip, and they start, you know, driving me over to the hospital, get me checked out. I treat everybody at the hospital like shit that are trying to help me, the nurses, everybody. They're like, yo, you need to calm down. Like, tell us what you've taken, whatever. And they're like, we had to take your blood. We think, you know, this, and this in your system. Did you take this? And I was like, hell yeah, I took all that. I did all that on purpose. And I was all proud about it, you know, just acting a fool, man.
Yeah.
So, they end up getting me in the car with another drunk and taking us off to jail a few hours later, man. And I had a broken shoulder, dislocated shoulder, and a broken clavicle, a few fractured vertebrae in my neck. I was all banged and bruised up from falling, but surprisingly no like crazy life or death injuries from after that wipeout, you know, which is pretty much a miracle if you ask me, you know what I mean? I mean, how do you go down with a bike?
Head? I've seen somebody
no lid. You know, I've heard stories of kids falling off their skateboards and hitting their head and not making it, you know? So, you know, I feel like definitely had someone looking out for me at that point. And yeah, it's a trip, man, because then I go, this is my first time in serious trouble, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm now in jail. And I got like nothing on me. I don't know what the fuck to do. Like I'm like just tripping. Like I don't know if the girl's okay. All I know is I've been told that I've crashed my bike, and I start flipping out, bro. Flipping out. Like I'm just like going crazy now. Like the belligerent part of me is in full effect. And the cops had already like kind of pissed me off by the way they handed me off to the correctional officers. You know, they're like, hopefully he's nicer to you than he was to us. And I was already on like this fuck you to all of them mode, you know. So they put me in the cell with all these other people, and I start banging on the fucking doors like, get me the fuck out of here, I'm gonna fuck these fools up. And you know, I'm telling these fools off, whatever, and I'm slamming on the door. And then finally when the CO comes up, and he's like, hey, he's like, Sailor, calm down, what the fuck are you doing here? And he has his Under Armour sleeve, so I didn't recognize him at first. And then he pulled up his arm and he's like, dude, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, damn, I realized it was one of my clients. It was a correctional officer. I'm like, damn. I was like, it's just a DUI, man. I'm like, and I'm freaking out about it, bro. I was like, but I can't be around all these people. Like, this shit gets me anxious, dude. I was like, you got to get me out of here. So fortunately, he was able to pull some strings or whatever and use it as a suicide watch and put me over in the other side where they were able to sober me up and get me a little blanket and some shit. And so I get arrested, and as I'm like almost my way through booking, which anyone who knows who's gone through that shit takes hours. You know what I mean? I was in there 8 hours, 8 hours before I even heard anything from anyone. And then they come in and they're just like, yo, you made bail. And I'm like, nah. And there's no way. I haven't spoken to nobody except for my baby mom. She ain't bailing me out for shit. And I'm like, so, I don't really know. I think you must have the wrong guy. They're like, nah, they pulled me out the cell. They give me all my shit, and like, wrap me up, and then fucking tell me that I guess my buddies had bailed me out, but had been waiting and had already left. You know, because they let you out after you catch your bail. They let you out on the streets 4 in the morning or something like that. So, fortunately, I had a cousin who lived like maybe a mile up the road. And I was like, I'm all bloody, bro. I'm wearing all the gear that I crashed in with a sling from the hospital. I'm hobbling down the road, down Ventura at 4 in the morning, get to his crib, and I hear his truck leaving for work. I'm like, damn, I just missed that opportunity. Now I'm stuck in Ventura. My phone's dead. You know, I got like maybe a couple $100 on me in the max. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? So as I'm walking in towards his neighborhood, his chick was actually letting her little dogs out because she lets them out every morning and was like, hey, come in here and get a shower and get cleaned up. So I do that, and I have to go back to the pad, and then my homies all tell me, well, we figured that when you never came home and none of us could get a hold of you, that something bad must have happened, so we called around and found out that you were in jail. So we bailed you out because we didn't want to leave you hanging in there. Which I was grateful for at the time. There was no way around it, though. I wasn't going to fight this case, you know what I mean? They had my blood. They had all the evidence they needed.
Everything was obvious.
They had an injury. They had a destroyed motorcycle. You know, it was my bike registered to me. Like, there's just the way the law goes. That's how it is. Just you ain't getting around it. So I talked to my homeboy who's a lawyer, and he told me straight up, he's like, even if I do the best that I can for you, he's like, it's going to be the same thing, the best that any public defender could probably do for you. He's like, you're going to do like a year minimum, just even though it's your first time in trouble. And I started tripping, and I was like, man, there's no way I'm doing a year. But mind you, now I have a court date coming up, go to that, and they put me on terms, so they gave me an alcohol monitor on my ankle, and then they give me like, formal probation terms where I have to be checking in and all this shit now because I'm out on bail for this case. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm still fucking kind of like, I'm still in this fog, of like, well, now I can't drink, so what am I else going to do? Well, I guess I'm going to party, so I'm going to start doing anything else. So I'm smoking more weed, doing other drugs and shit, trying to cheat the system. Meanwhile, I'm told, like, don't go out of the county without checking in and all this shit. And I was already on some, like, man, fuck this shit. Like, I'm not listening to nobody. So I decided, since my bike just got totaled, that I was going to take this last little bit of money that I had kind of stashed up. I was going to go fly up to Reno with this monitor on, regardless of who said I can or can't, and go drive that bitch back all the way back to Simi Valley.
Get another bike?
Yeah, just to get another bike. Because, like, two wheels for me that's my thing, you know? Motorcycles was my adrenaline rush. That was my love. So, yeah, so I did that. And I rode up to Reno, and I bought this Harley, and I ride it back. And then I go to court, like, maybe 2 weeks later. And they're like, all right, checking with probation, I mean. And I didn't mention that I had left, but they said that looked like there was some tampering on my ankle monitor. And she said a couple of times. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, one was like at 3 a.m. It went off and it said tampering. She's like, and one of them, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, this is kind of, you know, I'm going to let you slide on this one. She's like, but you can't let this stuff happen again. Well, meanwhile, like I said, I wasn't drinking, so I'm starting to lose weight, and this ankle monitor is getting looser on me because I'm losing 5 pounds, 10 pounds over these next 2 weeks, and that's enough on my ankles and my swelling to where this thing got loose. So when it got loose, it came away from my skin and sent some more signals that I was like tampering with this thing. So of course they bring me in, and again, I was doing whatever I wanted besides drinking. Because fucking I was just, you know, already in that dark spot and kind of not giving a fuck. So, yeah, so the probation officer tests me, brings me into court, and basically, like, I had no idea that they were about to arrest me.
Were they drug testing you?
But they had just drug tested me, and basically called me and said, look, you got to appear at court at this date because you have tampering and you're testing positive for drugs. So yeah, so I fucking go to court, and I didn't think they were gonna do shit. You know, I'm out on like this OR, on this probation shit, like checking in, thinking I'm getting away with literally whatever I want. And then the judge literally says that to my face, and he goes, you're just out there doing whatever the hell you want to do, aren't you? And I was like, no, sir. I was like, I'm just trying to get my shit right, you know? And he's like, thing goes down, he's like, remand him. And I was just like, what? Bailiff come and grab me up, and like right in front of my mom and my grandma and my sister, like just arrested me right there. And they're like, you could take off like your watch and a couple things. They're like, but like your cell phone you're gonna want to have when you get out. If you can get a charger, like they're like, but that's it, like switch up and you're coming in right now. And I was like thinking, no way. I was thinking I was gonna get away with like house arrest or like something, because I'd never been in trouble with the real law before, like actually arrested in my life.
That was probably one of the reasons why you thought you could get away with everything.
Because I had for a dozen years. I had for 10 years, you know.
So that was
more than that even, you know. So if you could take it back to high school and take it back to, you know, all the things I got away with, that you can't be drinking before you're 21, but playing high school football, you get these little parties that everyone turns their head away and shit, you know. So I got away with a lot until then. And then, you know, once I went in there, I was like, damn, like this shit kind of hit me, you know. And then I'm starting to sober up now from literally years of drinking alcohol almost daily.
Like detoxing?
Yeah, in a way. I wasn't kicking or nothing because I never did anything too crazy, you know. I never did anything like that. I would have a hangover. I would never be detoxing or kicking or nothing. But yeah, but from the alcohol, I definitely was. You know, blood pressure was getting a little funny and shit like that was starting to happen while I was in there. And then, yeah, finally, like they you know, moved me upstairs after the 72 hours, and I start, you know, just sweating it. Like I don't know. I got this court date coming up. I'm talking to the public defender. She's saying it's not looking too good for me and shit. And I'm like, damn, like, I really don't know. Do I hire a lawyer? Do I just, like, do I spend the last of my money trying to do that? What do I do? And so, you know, I talked to a few people. And my mom said, she's like, I've talked to our family lawyer. You're just gonna have to sit it out and, you know, see how this plays out. So I was looking at about 3 to 7 years because they basically had multiple felony counts on me, and almost every one of them was an enhancement. So like, here's the felony, and here's where you get the next level of like punishment, you know, because I was not only speeding, I was over X amount of miles over the speed limit. I was not only, you know, putting other people's lives in danger, I was also riding with no helmet. I was not only over the blood alcohol level limit, I was over twice the blood alcohol limit, or over a 0.18 or whatever it is, where they say it's now an enhancement. You know, so now I have like 3 felonies with these enhancements, and I'm already spent a couple of, you know, maybe weeks in there, and they're, you know, or a week or so in there, and they're saying like, all the people I'm talking to are saying like, yeah, bro, it's not looking too good. The judges over there, like, they've lost family members to DUIs, so they're strict here in Ventura County on that shit. And I'm like, damn, so I'm sweating it. Sure as shit, the public defender tells me, she's like, yeah, you're looking at about 3 to 7 years. She's like, you're gonna go upstate. And I was just like, no, I can't. I'm not. What can I do? I was like, I'll write a letter. I'll get referrals. I've never been in trouble. Like, you know, I'm self-employed. I can't go for 3 to 7 years. It's just not gonna happen. So she sees what she can do. She comes back finally with a final plea bargain, and she's like, you're not gonna get a better deal than this. She's like, I highly recommend you sign these papers. She's like, you're gonna do a year, flat out, no less than that. You're gonna do a year. And that fucking shit, my heart sunk, bro, when she told me that shit. I was like, damn, like, I'm really about to be in here for that long. Which to me, like, you know, that really ain't shit when you think about how much time people have served and got out and been fine or successful. But for me, that was like life-changing. I was like, no fucking way. Like, it finally caught up to me and shit. So, yeah, bro, so I'm like thinking I'm fucking, you know, I'm not gonna see my kid. I'm not gonna see any of my homies or my friends. I'm pretty much gonna be just fucking jammed up for that long stay. They're gonna ship me up north, and basically I looking through my papers, and I'm signing this plea deal, and I'm like, wait, I'm not gonna sign for this. It says that like I've caused violent bodily injury to a female, and I was like, I'm not about to go upstate, you know, with this on my paperwork like this. I was like, she voluntarily got on my bike. I didn't cause no violence on her intentionally. I get that I caused great bodily injury, but I didn't do any of that on purpose. You know, she willingly got on my bike, and I'm not gonna sign this paper right here. So she goes, all right, let me talk to the judge. So she walks over. I didn't have to sign that part, which was a super blessing, because, well, a blessing and a curse, you know, because I was actually, because of that non-violence not being signed, I was able to serve my full prison term, which was the 1 year in the county, which is the most they'll let you max out at. You know, you can't do more than 12 months in the county, you know, you have to be moved up, you know, up wherever, upstate, wherever they're gonna hold you, or wherever you're fighting your
The
trial.
broad got messed up, or was she really hurt, or?
Yeah, she claimed to be. You know, come to find out, when it was all said and done, the restitution kind of paperwork and the receipts were that she needed some over-the-counter medication and a couple day spas and a lazy boy, which that's what I had to pay for on my restitution, you know. So I think I got the brunt of it. She never really let go and kind of just landed on top of me when we crashed. You know, but, you know, I tried explaining all that in this paper that I wrote to the judge, like I said, to kind of get me a little bit of leniency, which it did. And then I had a couple references from, you know, other people who were tattoo owners and mentors of mine who had also been to jail and had also, you know, gotten their shit together. You know, shout out Rick, one of my homies, Rick, who Nick and I both know really well. And he's in the program. He wrote me a letter that said, you know, that I would have a job and I'd have a sponsor when I got out. So I think that helped, you know, kind of affect what my sentence was going to be, you know. So I don't know, I guess after being sentenced and being in there for a few, what kind of got crazy was it was almost comfortable being in there, you know what I mean? Like, I was still just drawing, you know, I still was just, you know, And I was making money drawing, so I wasn't really tripping. Nobody was really putting any money on my books or writing letters besides my mom's and my sister. And I told them, I was like, look, I'm doing all right in here. And my mom was like, that's what I was afraid of. She's like, that you're going to be all right in there, and that it's too, like, you're going to be too
institutionalized.
yeah, that you'll become too comfortable and you'll handle yourself too well in there, and then you kind of get wrapped up in that life. She's like, I just don't want you I don't want that for you. And then I think that's where things like changed, and it's crazy because I started like just ditching out on, you know, the stay in the cell just to go to the church groups and the different things to get out of the cell. And then it actually started dawning on me some of the things that these guys were going through and some of the shit that I was going through, and then, you know, started realizing some of the changes that were going to be necessary for me to, you know, to stay on the right path and not allow what my mom said to happen and me get stuck and caught up in there, you know, because as soon as I went in there, again, it was like I wasn't sweating nothing. I just went in there and was like, I've been around people like you my whole life, and I draw, and I already knew correctional officers that were my clients. Other people in there had tattoos by me, you know, so I was comfortable in there, man, to like a point where it was like, it scared my family, you know. So I think they hovered over me real close, and that was a real big factor, because if I was up north, I don't think that would have been the case. You know what I mean?
You'd have been more of been in the state, state, you'd have been around a different element, and it would have been easy.
Well, so when I was going through my process, you know, going through the preliminary hearing and then going into my court hearings and all this, the DA decides he wants to bring up a case that I'm now a felon in possession of firearms, which is like a whole nother sideline thing. Like, I was already in custody, but they go through their thing and want to throw the book at you, they'll do it. Mm-hmm. So they dig up that I'm legally the owner of these 3 or 4 firearms, so they want me to now have another charge thrown there. And so it took me a nightmare battle, man, to go for the next 30 and almost 60-day extension. So I'm like still in the county jail, which is miserable. The county jail sucks. You know what I mean? It's not laid back. Everyone that's coming in and out is kicking or fucking on drugs or, you know, still real fucking hot-headed from being on the streets. It's not real organized in there, and it's dirtier than shit, you know what I mean? So it sucked being in there and then thinking that they're going to throw another charge on me, and that if that happens, then I'm for sure going up for more time. You know what I mean? But because my family and everyone was close, they were able to help me get those guns sold and transferred, and then I was able to, you know, kind of avoid that extra charge. And the judge was like, nah, he's done everything he can do. You know, you're telling the DA, you know, from as far as we can see, he's in custody. That's as much as he can do. Mm-hmm. You know, so I got a little blessing right there. And I didn't realize that, like, at that point, I think that's when things kind of, I guess, started to like look a little bit better, and I started getting better with handling my visits with my parents or with my mom and my sister, and, you know, and then finally everything got finalized, and they moved me from the main county jail to they call Todd Road, which is right up the street in Fillmore. It's basically once you've been sentenced and you're just serving out the rest of your time. Mm-hmm. So I went over there, and, you know, basically was, I don't know, like, for some reason kind of treated like this fucking, like this king or something, bro. Like, it was like I went over there and they had already heard about my drawings, and people had already gotten my drawings shipped over there and sent over there, and you know, my mom had met people that had talked to her that had said they received my drawings from in there. And so I just, fortunately, when I was in there, man, I didn't get caught up. I just kept drawing and kept drawing and kept drawing, knowing that, like, when I got out, I would be a better tattooer, you know, just even if I was fine-tuning my skills with a 2-inch pencil, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, little baby pencils.
Yeah, you know, sharpen them on the fucking ground if I had to, because the sharpener didn't even work in our unit, you know? But that's what I did. I hustled, and it was the same thing. And I had even told myself before, you know, I was on such a rock star thing that I was like, man, if I get caught up for any of this shit, bro, they can't take away my tattooing. Like, I'll still be tattooing, even behind bars. So I was just cocky, bro, and arrogant, you know. And then once I got in there, it really kind of bursted that bubble for me, you know. And like I said, I started going to these groups and started trying to prove to everybody that I was gonna make the changes that were needed to get out and to be, you know, like on the right track when I got out. You know what I mean? So I started attending the church groups, and I started attending these like extracurricular classes that, you know, were just about like, you know, what my plans were gonna be as far as work, stuff like that after my release. And they actually ended up letting me out 30 days early, which I don't know. They never really said if it was like a good behavior release or an overcrowding situation.
Taking classes or something
like
that.
But I honestly think that, me showing that little bit of incentive and kind of making the flip on like, in my head on like, you know, what my intentions were going to be from here on out. You know what I mean? And now I'm sober, man. You know, I hadn't had anything in my system to kind of keep me foggy and shit, you know, but I knew I had my art to fall back on because it carried me all the way through. You know, I met a couple of people in there that I was getting anywhere from $5 to $20 for a postcard. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I was still eating in there. Shit, I gained weight in there. You know what I mean? But I think I came out with this mentality of like, not only am I like not ever wanting to fuck with this shit again, you know what I mean? But there's that there's an opportunity for me to be able to hustle a lot harder, because if I could do it in jail, then I could for sure do it.
Yeah,
you know, out on the streets.